Alec Murdaugh has been found guilty of murdering his wife and son, but what exactly is the fate of the property where those killings took place? Murdaugh is a wealthy attorney whose porcelain world of privilege crashed down following a horrific act of violence. He came from a dynasty of lawyers who wielded great power in South Carolina over the last century, but on more than one occasion, the Murdaughs have wound up on the wrong side of the law. In 2023, Alec was found guilty of murdering his wife Maggie and their son Paul. He's also being investigated regarding the suspicious circumstances surrounding the death of his housekeeper. Additionally, after his murder conviction, he pleaded guilty to charges of money laundering and fraud totaling over $7 million. And before Paul was killed, he had his own brush with the law, as he was involved in the accidental killing of a 19-year-old girl while boating under the influence. Following Alec's arrest, the sprawling Murdaugh hunting estate and site of the family murders has piqued public interest thanks to its size and grandeur. The huge property and its grounds have since been sold off for a princely sum, along with many of the Murdaugh's family's personal effects. The murders occurred at the kennels of Alec Murdaugh's vast hunting estate and lodge, a 1,770-acre piece of land adjoining his main home on 4147 Moselle Road. The estate includes a log cabin where Paul had been living prior to his death. Both Maggie and Paul were shot multiple times at the kennels with several different hunting weapons. Alec was later identified as the culprit when cell phone data and his son's Snapchat placed him at the scene of the crime. Following Alec's arrest in September 2021, the property was put up for sale in February 2022 by the Crosby Land Company. They advertised the estate as a vast forested area with 2.5 miles of river frontage, numerous outbuildings, and a 4-bedroom lodge capable of housing up to 15 people. Designed for hunting, the estate is home to numerous deer and turkeys, as well as 2 man-made waterfowl impoundments created to attract wildlife. The property sold just over a year after it was listed to James Ayer and Jeffrey L. Godley. They reportedly paid just over $3.9 million.
There's no word on what they intend to do with their newly acquired property.
Although the Murdaugh estate sold for a hefty price tag, it won't be making Alec Murdaugh's surviving son Buster a millionaire. Most of the proceeds from the sale will go to victims of the boat crash that Paul Murdaugh was involved in. Paul had been drinking shortly before steering the vessel, and his reckless driving threw a girl named Mallory Beach into the water. She didn't survive the accident, and Paul was killed by his father before he could ever stand trial for that incident. As reported by the Greenville News, $2.686 million from the sale will go to Beach's family, as well as Morgan Dowdy and Miley Altman, all of whom were involved in the accident. $530,000 will go to Buster, and a further $12,305.28 will go to Alec's brother John Marvin. The majority of the rest of the estate was absorbed by various legal expenses. Furniture and other items from the house were auctioned off at a public event that proved to be hugely popular. An estimated 3,000 people attended the sale, and many of the items sold for well over their prices. The total amount raised by the auction and the fate of the money currently remain undisclosed. On March 1, 2023, a day before Alec Murdaugh was found guilty of murdering his wife and son, jurors visited the Murdaugh murder home. After their visit, the judge allowed 3 journalists, a reporter, a photographer, and a videographer to follow. They explored the estate and the outside of the home. The reporter noted, "It is a heavy place to visit. The property has stood vacant for 20 months. Some items seem to be left where they fell, including a deflated football behind the kennels and a tube of sanitizing wipes in the shed." Juror visits to crime scenes are fairly rare, but as defense attorney Stephen Benjamin explained, it permits a 3D appreciation for what has otherwise been a 2-dimensional presentation in court. However, Benjamin also noted that jurors are typically required to keep their thoughts to themselves throughout the process.